Well, since Vice President Kamala Harris began her run for the White House, her campaign says that there have been 14,500 new volunteer registrations in Florida, the most of any state.
Nationally, the Harris for President campaign has had more than 170,000 new volunteer signups since President Joe Biden exited the race. Before Biden dropped out, volunteers for the Democrats here were sparse. Now that Harris has been tapped by Biden, Democrats in Florida and around the country are energized. Still, Republicans have a giant 1 million registered voter advantage in Florida. And Governor Ron DeSantis said this week on social media Kamala has no chance in the Sunshine State. Still, there was one unusual indication of how Harris has affected the race. In the Villages last weekend, which is a traditional conservative stronghold about a 90-minute drive northeast of Tampa, there was a golf cart rally with hundreds of Harris supporters flooding a parking lot and driving in parade formation to show their support for the Democratic nominee.
So the Villages, who knew, Robin?
I was very, very surprised.
All right, so what does it say when she gets 14,500 new people signing up to volunteer? And that was as of last week. Who knows what's going to happen next?
Everyone's excited. It's an energizing time for the Democrats, and we're going to push it to the end to get her elected.
Let me ask you what President Trump said. He's questioning whether or not Kamala Harris is black. Former President Trump said she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I don't know that she was black until a number of years ago, or I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Who cares? I mean, as she would say, that's weird. I mean, she's black in something, so she's black in of Indian heritage. It doesn't matter. She's the nominee, hopefully as of August 19th, and we're going to go with it.
So, Natalie, you know, there is a lot of excitement around Harris, but in Florida, we are a red state. So is there any chance that we change from red to a more purple state or even a blue state as a result of the Harris nomination?
I don't believe that we have any chance of swinging back into purple or blue. But what we do need to be mindful about is that because there's new energy, because there was no energy prior, right? With Biden as the candidate, there was not, there was nowhere but up to go. And so with that, I think that the energy is whether or not it can be sustained is going to be the question. And so as long as there is a good ground game, which to their credit, so far out of the gate, the campaign staff has done a phenomenal job across the nation, not just in Florida, but here in Florida, we are a red state. And whether it's 14,000 or 40,000, I don't think that that's necessarily going to change.
Tell me about the energy level on the Republican side for former President Trump.
I think you can see at any given rally that there is significant energy around him, behind him, in front of him. So I think that that's going to persist. And I think that the thing that has shifted is that in years past, for those that have supported Trump, they've been quiet. And I think that that has stopped, and I think that you're going to start to see more vocalization and more kind of out front conversation and energy there too.
Mitch, the Democrats have set up campaign offices around the state. I think there's 12 offices right now, and they've hired a bunch of staff, more than 35 staff.
Yeah, in fact, there's more. I got a number last night, Rob. It's now 16,452 volunteers as of last night. Look, this is like a near-death experience for the Democrats. I mean, it was dead party walking with Joe Biden. So there's a lot of pent-up energy. What I think Natalie's correct in terms of it's not going to change who's going to win this election at the state level. But the down ballot candidates. I saw Sean Shaw last weekend, who's running for county commission in Hillsborough County, and if he wins his primary, he'll be on the ballot in November. This is going to be a close election for all Democrats in Hillsborough County. The margin of the advantage of Democrats over Republicans has narrowed dramatically since 4 years ago. So any county-wide race is not an automatic given for the Democrats. So I think this is going to boost somebody like him, especially with young and black voters specifically.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Who's most energized by the Kamala Harris announcement or the selection of Kamala Harris in Florida, and does that help in Florida? Janelle?
I think what we need to look at here is, like Mitch said, the down ballot in the immediate future, but even looking beyond the 2024 election to see if this newfound motivation among the Democratic Party translates into bridging some of the gains that the GOP has had in the last several months and several years. Are they going to be able to chip away at that 1 million voter registration advantage? Are they able to invigorate some energy into legislative races and chip away at that supermajority and eventually maybe even get it closer to, closer to a 50-50 split? That's what I'm watching. I don't think that this is going to be something where Florida all of a sudden goes blue. I don't think we will see an R+20 election again like we did in 2022.
Robin, what's your take? Is Florida a solid red state?
No, it's not. I think turnout is very, very important, and I think the number of volunteers that everyone is counting is just with the Democratic Party. But I work for an organization, Florida Rising, where we pulled our members together to solidify that we're going to support Kamala Harris. So it's a lot of grassroots organizations also that are not being counted, that are on the ground to mobilize around this election. And just because the Republicans have a million more. I get every Republican is not going to vote for Donald Trump. That's a fact. And we have a groundswell of everyone, and it's going to take everyone, right? Just like it took everyone for President Obama. It's going to take everyone to get Kamala over the finish line. But there's a lot of grassroots organizations throughout the state, people coming into the state to work on this election. So Florida is not lost.
I mean, that optimism is certainly prudent when you're looking at this from a strategic perspective if you're supporting Democrats, right? So everything you said, spot on. But I will add to that, though, that Republicans are historically more likely to show up. So that 1 million advantage is actually more when you consider the disparities in who actually shows up on election day to vote or
And also,
early.
you mentioned, Janelle, the double-digit victories for Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio a couple years ago. It was never going to be like that this year. Democrats really did not vote at all in 2022. They were totally uninspired. So it was, the margins right now, Donald Trump is winning by 6-8 points. That, we'll see if that changes much there. But again, I think it's more, again, a lower level where we'll see any maybe change.
And although Trump may not get all of the Republican votes, neither will VP Harris, right, when she's in the presidential candidate. Not all of Democrats are going to support her either, and I think that her VP pick is going to be a big determinant on how that plays out.